Welcome back to our post-debate coverage.
We want to go now back to Broward College. Our Angela Rozier is standing by live. She is with the Murphy camp. Angela?
Oh my goodness, what a difference a few minutes make. The spin room, you can see it starting to fill up right now. And joining me right now, your name please?
Alicia Davis.
And you attended the debate?
Yes, I did.
What did you think?
I think it was an awesome debate. I believe that they got most of the issues across and points across. And it was a strong debate. I believe that Rubio did a really great job. However, I'm still a Murphy fan.
So did anything change your mind while you were listening?
No. I'm still a Democratic.
And you're going to vote party?
Correct.
Right then. And your name?
Hi, my name is Kate Kopsenko.
And what did you think about the debate tonight?
I thought it was very interesting. I personally really enjoyed it, and it was especially great that as a student we could actually watch it live from our college campus.
And what about you, your choice? Did you decide anything today after listening to the debate?
Yes, I'm supporting Marco Rubio.
You're supporting Marco Rubio, and why is that?
Well, I really agree with his policies. I agree with him on economics, on immigration, and I'm a big supporter of him.
What about the debate? Did you think there was any negativity at all?
I'm sorry?
Negativity. Did you think
Negativity? To be honest, I believe that I would have liked to really hear more about policies of Patrick Murphy. I feel that in many cases he kept on redirecting to Marco Rubio. So to be honest, I would really like to hear more about his own policies rather than him just being always pretty much talking about Marco Rubio's policies, but not exactly talking about what he would have done in this case.
So you came today already thinking you were going to vote for Marco Rubio, and you're leaving thinking the same thing?
I'm leaving more confident that I would like to vote for Marco Rubio.
And you, Patrick Murphy, came thinking that way and leaving thinking that way?
Yes, I am strong Democrat.
Well, thank you very much for talking with me. And there you have it. Thank you. Both candidates represented here tonight. Folks here strongly believe in their candidate when they show up here tonight, and they're going to stay with them apparently until November 8th. Back to you.
All right, Angela, thank you.
Our Sonica Dange is live for us tonight with the Murphy camp. Sonica?
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually here with Arizona Congressman Gallego right now, and we were talking a little while ago. First of all, how do you think Murphy did tonight?
He did very good. He laid out a plan. He showed that he is actually the hardest working person for this job. He will actually show up to work, unlike Senator Marco Rubio. And, we're very happy with his performance.
Well, let me ask you something, because this was brought up in this debate. It's been brought up during a political campaign season. He has embellished his resume during this time, and he hasn't really addressed that during any of this debate. Do you think that's going to affect the voters' trust in him?
No, and look, this has been debunked by PolitiFact and a lot of other independent agencies. This happens during all kinds of campaigns where everyone starts nitpicking. But at the end of the day, I know Patrick Murphy. I've worked with him in Congress. He is the most hardest working bipartisan member of Congress, and he's actually going to show up to work, unlike Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio has nothing to embellish because he hasn't even showed up to work.
Congressman Gallego, I know you also mentioned to me that you were in the military, and you actually had some very strong feelings about one of the questions in this debate, which was the situation in Syria.
Right.
Tell me about why that fired you up so much.
Well, Marco Rubio tries to claim he's a foreign policy expert, then made a pun joke that said that the Peshmerga aren't in Syria. The Peshmerga are in Syria. They've actually died fighting for a lot of Kurdish refugees. As a matter of fact, they were key in turning around the battle and making sure that Kobani stay open. And anybody that claims to be a foreign policy expert, like Marco Rubio does, should know that. This is why he's not ready for prime time. This is why he couldn't even make it past out of the primary. He should probably not be running for Senate because he's not going to take this serious, and he's not taking the issue of foreign policy serious.
All right, thanks so much for your time. Yeah. Thanks so much. Again, the congressman here is just one of so many surrogates that are expected to come out tonight. We're still waiting on Ted Deutsch, so when he comes out, we will check back in with you guys. But for now, let's throw it back to the studio.
All right, Sonica, thank you.
Still to come, taking shots, Marco Rubio and Patrick Murphy taking aim, but are they accurate? Morning anchor Mark Kelly puts their claims through the truth test next. Rubio versus Murphy.
South Florida watched WPBF 25 as the two faced off a little while ago. Morning anchor Mark Kelly breaks down the candidates' claims with his truth test. Mark?
Well, it didn't take long. Minutes into tonight's debate, each candidate was calling the other one a liar. Rubio facing tough questions over whether he'll serve all 6 years if elected, and Murphy criticism that he fibbed on his resume. First, let's go to Murphy.
I am a CPA. Got my license in 2009. I'm one of 9 CPAs in the House of Representatives right now. And if elected to the Senate, would be the second CPA in the history of our country to serve there.
Is that true? Did Murphy lie about being a CPA? Well, it is true that Murphy has never been licensed in Florida as a CPA, but according to PolitiFact, he did have a license from Colorado. And during his career in Florida, he was an auditor, and that title has, of course, different privileges than a CPA. So the truth meter gives that a half true. All right, now let's go to Rubio. In the last debate, he said he would serve 6 years in the Senate with that qualifier, God willing. Well, tonight, he doubled down on his faith.
I believe that, for example, no matter what happens on November 8th, on November 9th, the sun is going to rise and the creator of the universe will still be sitting on the throne, and that everything that's going to happen will be ordered by him. I believe that deeply. And so that's why I always use that. It's not a qualifier. It's what I truly believe.
Time machine to go into the future. This is a tough one to truth test, but let's look at Rubio's past. Floridians know he's been known to change his mind. Take this Senate race. Through much of last year while running for president, he said that he would not seek this Senate seat, and clearly that did not happen. Now Rubio's fighting for that same seat he at one time said he was not going to run for. So on this one, the truth meter's out, at least for now. So, all right, let's go to Social Security. Switch gears for a little bit. First, Murphy's bite.
I believe we need to strengthen these programs, and I've introduced a bill called the Save Benefits Act that actually gives seniors a raise, helps with their cost of living adjustments. And I believe that by raising the cap, we can actually ensure that these programs are there not only for our current seniors, but for my generation and younger.
Is that true? Will Murphy preserve Social Security? Well, according to PolitiFact Florida, Murphy has said in the past that cuts are possible and said the program needs structural change, but he never talked about chopping benefits. Does Murphy want to preserve Social Security? The truth meter gives this a true. Now let's go to Rubio talking Social Security as well.
But yes, for younger workers, there is going to have to be some smaller changes or it won't exist. These programs are going bankrupt. Anyone who tells you that we can leave it exactly the way it is lying to you.
Rubio has warned in the past that these social programs will bankrupt the country. According to PolitiFact, he has talked about the need to increase the retirement age for younger workers. That came up again tonight, but keep the benefits the same for current retirees. So is Rubio telling the truth tonight about making changes to the social safety net in order to keep it alive? The truth meter says yes. Of course, tonight was a really packed debate. In our next half hour, we continue to put the candidates through the truth test. Tiff, Felicia, back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you. And right now on our WPBF 25 News Facebook page, we are asking you who you think won tonight's debate. Here are the real-time results. 65% of you voting think Marco Rubio won tonight's debate. You can take part in our poll all night long. You'll find it right there on our Facebook page. We'll be right back. You are watching Decision 2016, the U.S. Senate debate special on WPBF 25 News. Well, the man standing between Marco Rubio and another term in the Senate is Congressman Patrick Murphy.
Thank you for staying with us for this post-debate special. I'm Tiffany Kenny.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. For months, as he eyed the White House, Rubio promised voters he was done with the Senate. Now, following his fail to win the presidential nomination, Rubio finds himself in the thick of a re-election fight for his political career.
Todd McDermott moderated tonight's debate as both men fought for that Senate seat.
And Todd, we have to ask, any surprises tonight with the candidates that folks at home didn't get to see on TV?
You know, it's something I alluded to during the last debate, and the fact is, what would surprise you is how cordial these two men are off camera. We know it was a tough debate. We know this is an important seat. We know this is a crucial election year. But you noticed, I'm sure that the audience here in this beautiful auditorium on the campus of Broward College noticed, during the one break we had in this debate, the two men left their podiums, stood together, had water, and talked. They obviously respect each other, respect each other's service in Congress, and it was not what we've seen from presidential debates, be they in the primary or here during the general election.
Todd, you, of course, are very accustomed to reporting on these debates, on big political events. How did it feel to kind of be on the other side, if you will, and moderating it and trying to keep the policies and a debate of substance for us tonight? Because it seemed like you did it seamlessly, but I know it must have been difficult at times.
Well, it didn't feel seamlessly, that's for sure. Before the actual program, we gave the rules to the audience, and as you heard, there was a moment there we talked about the last half hour in which the audience erupted in some laughter. There were a couple other incidents. They actually were very well behaved. There was no chanting, none of that. I really just didn't want them to boo the moderator at all. But the fact of the matter is that this was the kind of debate where I think we really got to the issues. I felt like my job here was to try as much as I could to keep this moving, to get to the issues, and make sure the gentlemen both had equal time to talk. And I can't tell you how difficult it is, what a challenge it is to try to do that, as we actually have those yellow and red lights. They see them, so do I, but it's tough to get somebody to stop in the middle of a sentence. I wouldn't want to debate either one of these men ever in any way.
Well, you did a really great job tonight, you know, kind of keeping the peace and keeping them on track. I guess moving forward, how was it at the end? Did you see, you know, did they shake hands at the end of the debate? You said they spoke during that one break about 8:30.
They were both here and stayed and talked to a lot of their well-wishers in the crowd on stage together. Again, these two gentlemen are cordial. There are a lot of instances where the two candidates don't want to see each other, don't want to be near each other. That was not the case. But I want to go to a moment tonight and give you some background on it. And it was a question about Cuba and the embargo and the UN resolution today that the U.S. abstained from. It's a condemnation of the U.S. embargo on Cuba. For the first time ever, the U.S. actually abstained from voting on that. They have always opposed that vote. Usually they are by themselves, or it's the U.S. and Israel and the rest of the world. Instead, the U.S. abstained. That's a key note here. And also keep in mind how important the Hispanic vote is in this state. Not just the Cuban-American vote in Miami-Dade, but the Hispanic vote throughout our state. Take a listen here, and we'll talk more about it on the other side.
It is a crazy, broken deal that needs to be revisited because it is rewarding the Castro regime and asking nothing in return on human rights or on the dignity or freedom of the Cuban people.
Congressman Murphy.
Yes, and Senator, I do appreciate your efforts on cracking down there. But just this very weekend, Donald Trump was on a Sunday morning show here in Miami. And when asked about violating the Cuban embargo, he basically admitted that he did it. Senator, we know this is one of your core issues, and I'm not trying to be critical because I do respect your position. But the person you chose to be our next president has basically admitted he violated the embargo, and you continue to stand by his side despite this being one of your core initiatives that you care about. So what's it going to take for you to unendorse Donald Trump? Is there anything he can do or say at this point that you will not continue to support him?
That's bizarre. Congressman Murphy, you're criticizing Donald Trump for supporting a position that you have. You support lifting the embargo.
I'm criticizing you for not having the courage,
so finally,
Senator.
Patrick Murphy agrees
you
with
have
Donald
no
Trump on Cuba.
backbone.
And again, all my best intentions, the crowd did respond to that, as you saw. Now, again, the backdrop of this, besides that UN resolution today, was the fact that we know that Senator Rubio has gotten much support from the Cuban-American community in Miami-Dade during his career, from state government into the U.S. Senate. Recent polling actually shows that statewide, this most recent poll shows that Congressman Murphy actually has an advantage in Hispanic support. And there are national media reports that during a weekend appearance at a festival in Orlando, Senator Rubio was booed by Puerto Rican Americans, also a very large part of the Hispanic community in our state. At this point, I want to go to Angela Rozier, who is here on the campus of Broward College as well. She's been with the Rubio camp all day long. Angela?
You know what? No booze here in the spin room here on the campus of Broward College. We talked to several supporters, Marco Rubio supporters, after the speech today. One woman told me that she came in confident that she was going to vote for Marco Rubio, and she's leaving tonight even more confident that she's going to vote for Marco Rubio. We also talked to other folks here in the spin room, as well as the Chief Finance Officer, Jeff Atwater. He was here also in the spin room. He's been following the Marco Rubio campaign. We've seen him at some of the rallies. We saw him in Orlando the last time we were there for a rally. I touched base with him and asked him what he thought about the debate. He said he was proud of Marco. He thought he was smooth with his discussions. He said he also was proud to hear that it was such a well-delivered debate. He also told me, I asked him if he thought that there should be another debate, and this is what he had to say.
I don't think Mr. Murphy is interested in any more debates. This was a schooling of someone who is ambitious, no question. Mr. Murphy is ambitious, but in private life, they proved tonight he had no business. In public life, he's had no accomplishments other than maybe starting a congressional key club. I think it's just clear that Marco was humble, he had humility, and I think Marco would love a debate on any particular evening with what we had tonight. Hundreds of people present in the room and thousands of people watching that you're going to be sharing with your viewers that had a chance to hear him and to ask him questions. I thought it was a night that was good for our democracy.
And again, he said that he thought that Marco Rubio was very positive with his answers tonight, even though his other candidate may not have been so positive. And for more on Patrick Murphy, we go to Sonica Donge, who's been following the Murphy camp. Sonica, what are they saying there?
And we have been speaking to congressmen here who do support Patrick Murphy. They say they're very proud of how he did tonight. Earlier, you heard from Arizona Congressman Ruben Gallego. Right now, we have Congressman Ted Deutsch. And first of all, how do you think Patrick Murphy did tonight?
Well, I think he did great. I think Patrick spent the night talking about issues that really matter to the American people. He pointed out that Senator Rubio doesn't really want to be in the Senate, hasn't really shown up to work, and of great concern is wholly unwilling to walk away from, like so many other Republicans have saw the need to, walk away from his presidential candidate who's been so divisive. So I thought it was a great night for Patrick.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, because earlier when we were speaking, you mentioned that was something that really stuck with you during this debate. And it's something, of course, we've been hearing throughout this season, especially from Murphy talking about after those controversial comments being made, he expected an endorsement to be withdrawn. That didn't happen, and that was discussed tonight.
I don't, at the end of the debate, Senator Rubio talked about courage and how it doesn't take courage to be in politics. Well, in his case, unfortunately, that's true. It shouldn't take courage to actually walk away from a candidate who's been so divisive and has launched so many attacks on women and immigrants and people with disabilities and the Muslim community and on and on. And yet, time after time, all Senator Rubio did tonight was try to joke about it. It's not funny. The reason that so many people find Donald Trump's campaign so offensive and so divisive is that it's tearing the country apart. And Senator Rubio tonight, instead of actually addressing, being willing to stand up to Donald Trump, joked about Congressman Murphy pointing out the relationship that they have together. That was really concerning. I think it concerned everyone who watched the debate tonight.
And really quickly, I know you got to run in a few minutes, but I do want to touch on the Supreme Court nomination subject came up tonight with Merrick Garland. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Senator Rubio's answer to the question was not about Merrick Garland, who's an accomplished and reasonable and well-respected jurist who deserves a hearing. His answer was really just these sort of extremist talking points about viewing the Constitution as it was the day that it was ratified, failing to understand the advances in civil rights, the advances in women's rights, a woman's right to choose, which is a protected and important constitutional right that is not written verbatim into the Constitution. For Senator Rubio to refuse to acknowledge the great strides in civil liberties and equal protection for all that the Supreme Court has interpreted the Constitution to provide shows, I think, a a willingness to simply look backward instead of acknowledging that there's still so much more that we have to do together to go forward.
All right, Congressman, thanks so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure, thank you.
And Congressman Deutsch did bring up another subject that wasn't really discussed in length during this debate, but that was the women's reproductive rights. That has been discussed at length during the last debate, although it wasn't discussed in such detail tonight. Both candidates here tonight, their surrogates here start to thin out right now. Patrick Murphy is not expected to come out here and speak, but we did see a lot of representatives come out here to talk for him, including Lois Frankel, who was here just a couple minutes ago. But again, right now it seems as if the crowd is starting to thin out a little bit. Let's throw it back to you.
All right, Sonica, thank you. Next, is there truth to what the candidates are saying? Morning anchor Mark Kelly joining us once again to put their jobs to the test.